all the way around. So we're gonna bring this up here. So this is just gonna get clipped out of the way on this side. And then now for this part here is we are going to just have two sections in the back. So again, you'll notice I'm using my fingers, so I'm not going in and using a comb. So we're gonna take this through. So again, we don't wanna disturb the curl. Now we're gonna go at a slight diagonal. So instead of it being like horizontal, you're gonna go at a slight diagonal. And that's gonna help keep that corner. So just using my finger through this, I'm gonna bring this up. And this is where I'm gonna be looking at density. So I'm going to take this section a little bit smaller and add this to here. But I find if the line's going slightly down, you're more likely to keep your corner. So it's more of a safety than anything. Okay, so you're gonna bring this part down. And now instead of free form, we're gonna cut in our fingers. So that's the difference with this. And you can do this technique wet or you can do this technique dry. It's a preference, but dry is less shrinking. That's the main reason for that, and less room for you to pull. When it's wet, we go into hairdresser mode and we pull. So what you're going to do is these curls are perfectly placed to where I can see them. I'm gonna bring my hand down and we're gonna remove about 3 inches. So that's our goal. So we're gonna bring this here and we're just gonna bring this across. So I am bringing it back through there. This is where you would have less inconsistency on the perimeter line, but you still, if the curls don't match up, then there's that. So I like re-walked my hands loose, and I do sometimes, I use my ring finger just to hold my shears in place, and then I'm gonna be basically looking at it. So I'm gonna bring this around, I'm gonna take this front part here just a little bit shorter through there. So ideally, you're visually looking at it versus pulling on it, because if you pull on it, you'll make it uneven with the curls. It will probably be even in life, but it will be uneven with the curls. Have you seen that before? Mm-hmm. Where you see one side of the curls gets dragged and the other one is, you know, so that's what we're looking at here. So now we're gonna take this next section. Slight diagonal. Here. And sometimes I use texturizing cream or the refresh to help me out through here. They're coming out pretty nice out of the box, but if you feel like you want some of the refresh on there, that's fine. Just don't get them wet. Don't make them too wet, or it'll be like right in between. So now I'm just matching that curl up to here. So here's this part here, matching it up. Here and there. Is the perimeter, now what you're looking for as you're doing these, this part before we go into the layering, you're looking to make sure that that hair is filling in and you're making a good perimeter. If you don't fill in and you layer, then you start looking in between a round and a square shape. So that's what we're looking for here.
You do strong horizontal cuts instead of like small pin wing.
Yeah, so what we don't want, I want bulk.
Yeah.
So I don't want it point cut because I don't want it soft. We want like a strong shape. I can always go in and point it later if I want to, but for it to start, we're going for strong. So it's interesting when I was looking up what people were saying about curly hair, there was a lot saying you should only get a blunt cut. And it should all be one length. And that's because if it is blunt, you don't have anything to grow out because nothing's weird's been done. so I can understand. And you know, I mean, I do have a couple clients that just don't have the density to have any layers. So we do more of a blunt. So if you're in the finer side and you're low density, you might have to have a blunt cut even with curls. Especially, I don't know, I'm sure some of you deal with this too, but hair loss. So I have quite a few clients going through some pretty serious medications, and they're losing their hair. So what used to be this really thick, curly hair is getting skinnier and skinnier and skinnier. And so I am more on the, so I do this blunt cut even without the layers sometimes on some of my clients. Okay, so now, see the perimeter? We're starting to get stronger. So as I'm going in, I'm just like double checking some of this. So you can look at it, and if you see a long bit in there, you can go back in and grab it. So I'm gonna bring this next section down. So notice in my diagram, it looks like I should already be layering right now. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the lowest you would ever go, is in that diagram. What you have to decide is whether or not they have enough hair to go that low. So right now, my girl here, I might want to start layering right now, but I'm going to take the perimeter length off first. So what you're going to do is you're going to bring this in through here, get this, and again, 3-finger comb, so I'm using 3 of my fingers, I'm combing it with my fingers, and I'm loosely cutting this. So all through here, bringing this down. I'm also not cutting on my corner, like I'm staying back. So same in this one, bring this down here. So right now, it's a fairly full perimeter. So now I would be willing to layer this. So what I want you to do is, if I had started, so if I just followed my diagram, I would have started to layer here. That would have not had enough bulk to it. So they would have lost that kind of middle part. So now we're gonna bring this down, and now I'm gonna start to layer. So when you're going in, you're gonna do the entire back first before you go into the sides. Questions on that? Okay, so now we're gonna go into number 2. So we're doing the back. So this top part's going to be coming down. And it's not unsimilar to what we did in part of the round. You're gonna take a vertical section here, but you're going to hold your hands lower. So I'm gonna stand to the side. So if I'm a right-handed cutter, I'm gonna stand to my left side. And if I'm a left-handed cutter, I'm gonna be over here. So I'm gonna bring this up through here, and all I'm gonna do is use my fingers to find those curls. And there's my guide right there, but I want the longest part of my guide, which is here. Do you see the difference? So longest part of the guide, and I'm gonna hold it out more. So I'm not going to round it up like you did with the rounded one. I'm gonna hold it here. So this is gonna give me more of like a square shape through here. So that's gonna start there. I'm gonna do 3 sections. So the one I just did, I'm gonna do 2, 3, and then I'm gonna hit the mastoid. So the minute I hit the mastoid right here, everything's getting over directed to a stationary guide. So when I do dots, that means it's traveling, and then when you see the arrows, that means it becomes stationary. Right? So this next set here, so I'm gonna take this one here, lift this up. Now I have a guide from the side. Very loosely am I combing these curls just to see where they're at, and I'm bringing this up through here, and I'm keeping it square. So in here, this needs to stay square. I got one more section. It's happening here. Now I'm over directing, so now I'm stationary. So when you look at kind of where I'm at right now, I'm right here, and it's got to get over directed back to here. So it creates this point. So I'm going through, combing through, still cutting up and looking for that guide. So a lot of times you have to kind of bring it through a couple times. There's the guide. But everything in it is looser hands. That's really the trick to some of this. And then this last setting here, I'm going to bring this up here, bring it through, and get that amount. So just off of this, there's a lift up, but it's lower than the round. Cool? Okay. gonna do this last side, so on this side here, I need to stand in the same place I stood so that I can always kind of keep that part. So I'm just gonna stay on the left side, longest part of my guide, right there. Bring this through. And if the hair, she's like a medium density, if the hair was super dense, I would take smaller sections. So here's my next section here. Make sure you have some of this going through, longest piece. Okay, mastoid, now I'm there. So now I over direct. So now we're in, so you should see less hair coming off as we go through here. Take this last section. Now this is really structured because I'm cutting it straight across. I can always go back in and break the structure, but I'm giving it structure. And I find that a lot of clients like this because maybe their hair gets weaker as it gets to the ends, especially like on some curly hair. So that's where this back is gonna be. Are you good for me to show you more, or you wanna try the back first?
You can keep going.
Keep going? Okay. Okay, so now we're gonna go into the sides. So now we're gonna take this piece here. This is gonna be your lighter side. So we're gonna work off of a side part. So this is the lighter side here. Okay, then we're gonna go to this side. So these two sections should be they should be on that higher side of the parietal. So that's where this one's gonna go. So you have two sections, you have one that's heavy, and then you have one that's the lighter side. So we're saying, like the last one we did was that she had a fringe, we're saying that this one's gonna have a side part. So that's the difference in there. So when we're looking at kind of this on here, you're gonna match up the sides and the front. So we're gonna create the square coming around with the side. And then there's gonna be a slight layer that happens in the front, but it's not gonna go as high up as the round did. So that's the difference that's going in there. Okay, so I'm gonna do this side here. Now generally, when I do this, I tend to like to break it up in two sections, just because I like a little bit of control. Like this was actually very hard for me to get used to because I was more trained in the vidal sassoon way. So not using a comb and combing was like, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. But I was shocked at how much better my result was versus me over combing. So now I'm gonna go in through here and I'm gonna match this up, but I'm gonna stay square. So right in here, so when you're cutting this, you need to stand right by your spot. So this is gonna come in here. I'm gonna bring this down, loose tension, but I'm using my guide from the corner into here. Now one thing that I will say, the front tends to be curlier on the front hairline. So if I hold and match it to here, and the curls are a lot tighter, it'll jump up like this. So if you notice tight curls, angle your fingers down. So go down so that you make up for that part of it. So then here's this next section that's gonna come down. So I'm gonna bring this down and I'm just gonna match it up to this bottom part here. This is gonna get cut here. Loose. Bring this up through here. So that's what that side, so now when you look at it, can you see the corner? Mm-hmm. So we got a corner down here, but we also are building a corner in here. So same thing. I'm gonna take this section here. So here's that part, that's the guide. So this one right here is the guide. So when you're going in, I'm gonna bring this down this way, loosen. And loosen there. Next step, comb through. And I have some clients that they love this cut, but then I also have some that are like, I like it better when you cut my hair wet. So I came back from Diva Curl 2 years ago, and and I just said, that's it, I'm gonna try all dry hair cutting on some curly hair for a while. And my clients are kinda cool, they'll let me try different things on them. And then they give me feedback afterwards and say, okay, I liked this about it, I like this about it. So if for some reason they said, I just feel like when I wear my hair straight, it still does a lot of this, then you might do the perimeter wet and then do the layers dry. Because you could do that because the layers will be just fine, but what they're concerned about is that the perimeter looks even when they wear it straight. Fair? So that's just an option of something that you can do. Now, a lot of times, when people go to layer curly hair, they dress it like they're doing a round layer, like what would be on straight hair, and the layering comes down too far. So we layered back here, but we're not actually gonna layer interior here, because there's just not as much hair. So it's not gonna create the same shape that's happening in the back. And usually the mannequins are even thicker than what most people are. So the only thing we're gonna do as far as layering goes in the front is you're gonna freehand and walk down in the front some curls. But we want basically this layering to be right within 2.5 inches of the bottom line. So not so short going up, because we'll get the layers. So I'm going through and I'm holding curls and bringing it down, and I'm creating some layering, but only really that's happening here. Not a lot of layering is happening here because the ear pops up and you're missing density by the ear. So that's also another place to consider. So again, same thing. I'm gonna go through here, and within 2.5 inches, I'm gonna visually look at these curls and make some layering in there. And then same, you can kind of walk it down. And usually with the layering, I start short and I get a little longer as I move back, and then that would be my stopping point. So you've got a little bit of front layering, and then again, same thing, you can go through and you can match them up. But our goal is to have some layering, but to still have some weight right here. Good? Top. Okay, so sectioning wise, we did the back layers, we just did the front, now we're doing the top. So this top comes down. We're gonna do one side first and the other because one's heavy and one's not. So this has like one section. So you can see in the diagram how it just has one section going on here. So I'm gonna do the light side first. So I'm gonna basically open up some of these curls just to have a look at them. I'm gonna take this part here. I'm gonna grab my layer from here. That's my guide. And this is going to be more on the concave here, but it's coming all the way back here. So why would I do that on the lighter side?
More hair towards the ends.
There's more?
Thicker towards the end. Well, on the concave part.
Yeah, so if
That
I'm going
part.
here, right? I think I know what you're saying.
I'm not saying correctly.
So when this is coming down, if I do a concave and I over direct it all the way to the back, on the light side, what happens is the heavy side will be perfectly layered. The light side won't have any layers. Like it'll be like it's lopsided because it's not been concave. Right. So I'm tilting up a little bit so that this gets a little shorter up here, so that it basically looks the same as my heavy side of what I'm going to do for the heavy side. So the key is to really over direct. This has to be a stationary guide or you'll take too much off of the front. So this is coming all the way back here. So see how little is coming off from here compared to what happened here. So light tension is still the same thing, bringing this up through here. So now we have some layering, and then I can go through and match up. So my concave is happening here, and I'm looking kind of through here, and I can go, and so I want you to, after you do that, to freehand the in-between, like we did on the other, and just look at the shape, but keep it square. Don't go round. So now, what we're gonna do here, this has to be broken up into 2 sections because it's the thicker side. So you have 1 section on that other side, this is 2. So with this one, this is coming back. Here's my guide. So my guide, your guide for this, you gotta start lower. Your guide for this section here is here. Your guide for this section is here. So then you're gonna take this guide here, I'm gonna bring this back, and I'm gonna hold it lower than I did, cause this is more classic. If you were cutting, off of a middle part, you would do the both sides this way. So you're just gonna bring this in.
So the difference so far is the other one was higher?
Yeah, the other one was higher,
Okay.
and the main reason it was higher is just because of how heavy the part is. So it's just adjusting for the part. So all I'm doing is I'm bringing this through, and this is lower. And then if it doesn't reach, it doesn't reach. So that's that first one, so I'm layering it, but I'm filling in where that is. So then, we bring this up, so where was my guide for this one?
Straight in the middle.
Straight in the middle. So now, I'm gonna lift up a little bit more. So I start lower here, cause that's in the middle. Now I'm gonna lift this up a little bit more. So this is gonna get lifted up. Again, everything's brought back to this.
Is it lifted as high as the other side was?
It's
or-
not,
No,
and it's not concave.
okay.
So because it's heavier, so that they look the same.
Cause you just need to take more bulk out from that side.
Mhm. I feel like I've made more money on learning how to cut off of a side part
Yeah,
than anything else, because they always, they'll say, it feels like these layers are really good, but there doesn't seem as much. That's because, and they have to commit. They can't say, oh, I part in the middle and I flip it around. No, you don't. Like, everybody knows you probably pick a side. So now, after that's in, so looking at it like side to side, she has layering on both sides. And even though if I pulled them up there, they wouldn't be even, they look even. So that's sort of what matters more than anything, is that it looks even. So once you're done with that, you're just gonna go through again, and you can create some layering in this front area, just to open up the face. But our goal is to have it, obviously, a little bit longer in through there, and bring it here.
Now, what if someone wanted the same cut but just much shorter layers? Would you go about it the same way, just cut more off?
No, good question.